it was important to evolve from that. I can't remember the question. What was the question? Sorry, mate.
What was the question, Toby?
I have worked hard on this brand image, going from Lenny the Geezer to Lenny.Urban.
I've been trying to get you on for some time now, and you've always been quite cautious.
I didn't feel comfortable about coming on a podcast that was about entrepreneurialism or owning a business because I'm an employee.
15-inch steely, perfect for ramming up curves.
To go from doing silly videos in a car stuck in traffic in London to working for a company like Urban, which I'm lucky for.
When did you become content in life in your head?
So never had any money, but I had a lovely childhood. Sometimes I have to pinch myself. I haven't spoken about this to anyone before, but
Lenny! People buy into brands because of people, and you have got one of the most recognisable personal brands that I've seen from all the years that I've watched YouTube. You're like the granddad godfather of automotive
I'm glad
YouTube.
you said, is it just because I've been around for so long?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Which I think anyone that's into vans has got that kind of hard nut appearance.
No.
Seems to have been around for a long time. However, Lenny, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
So my name's Lenny Howlett. I work for Urban Automotive. I'm new vehicle and VIP sales, but because I've been with Simon and Urban so long, I do a little bit of everything, you know, whether it's wraps, parts conversions, vehicle sales, brand ambassador, YouTube, I do a little bit of everything.
It sounds so right coming out of your mouth. I do a little bit of everything.
That was the professional answer. I mean, if you want to go back, I was Lenny the Geezer, which makes me cringe. You
This
know,
is like when my
just...
mum refers to like Poundland as the pound shop, and I'm like, it was that name in the past, mum. It's not Pet City anymore. It's Pets at Home.
I still get called Lenny the Gees, but it's a past that I'd like to kind of leave behind. Look, I kind of realised that I had to evolve. You know, with how seriously I was starting to take Urban as a career, I realised that no one's going to buy a £400,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan off of Stone Island wearing Lenny the Geezer, you know. So, and that was a character, and I can't hate on it because it got me to where I am. Look, we both know that social media is a powerful tool, and that was a kind of character that I used to create a following. But I kind of realised very quickly that if I wanted to take myself seriously in a career of selling high-end luxury vehicles at Urban, I needed to change that. So I evolved.
I think it's important to also tell the audience that our conversations have evolved over the last year, because I've been trying to get you on and in the van for some time now, and you've always been quite cautious. I'm like, what's the reason? And you pointed out about a month ago, you're like, well, Ben, I just don't feel comfortable because like your titles all say entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And that really made me think as a host about what road to success is, because to me, I look at you like the UK version of the American dream. Everything that I see online, and my perception is a really happily married, wonderful dog, seems to live the dream, got an awesome job, got good friends around him, still gets all the fun, but also whilst working in a solid career. It's like the UK dream. That's what you live.
Yeah, I mean, I do get an element of imposter syndrome now and again, because, you know, we've been having these conversations. You know, I didn't feel comfortable about coming on a podcast that was about entrepreneurialism or, you know, being an entrepreneur or owning a business, because I'm an employee, you know, and I'm a proud employee of Urban. But I'm very lucky in I say luck, I've kind of made my own luck. I've been given this opportunity, and you know, we said earlier, I think, you know, it's a very lucky man that is content with his place in life, you know, and I am content. I'm really happy. But yeah, I mean, to go from, you know, doing silly videos in a car stuck in traffic in London to, you know, working for a company like Urban, it's the American dream, the British version, you know, going from being a white van man, doing a bit of lorry driving and stuff like that, to being given this opportunity and being, you know, like the brand ambassador for Urban Automotive is amazing. And I like to think that I'm doing quite a job at it as well.
But I can see you taking yourself to any of those things you just said. And it's like, I imagine you as a character, like you said, the old Lenny the Geezer as a character. And if I just tapped a button and it put you in a different outfit every time, like white van man, lorry driver, suddenly complete well-trimmed sales director.
Yeah.
You seem to suit everything.
Well, you have to be in sales, you have to be a bit of a comedian anyway, right? And especially at Urban Automotive, because we've got customers from all walks of life. You know, you've got the high net worth individuals, you've got the builder off the street who's worked hard and they want to defend a commercial. You've got, someone who's happy to pay 400 grand outright for a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. You've got very well-spoken people from the Cotswolds. You've got East Londoners. You've got Albanians. You've got travellers. We've got a fine array of customers, and I have to, people buy from people. I have to be good with every element of, different person in life.
So your whole life, even growing up, were you always around a variety of people?
Yeah, always. Yeah, I've got quite an eclectic group of mates, which I'm lucky for. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Bedfordshire called Sandy, which is about an hour north of London, about a mile down the road from a big gypsy site. So I had a few mates. We used to play about with them, play football across the park, and then I had mates in North London. I had, it was quite an eclectic mix. Yeah.
Did you ever know what your path was at that point, though? Your mission? Did you have any idea what was going on?
Not at all. No. I mean, I left school with extremely average GCSE grades. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I genuinely didn't. I've done everything. I've done lorry driving, van driving, everything. And it was only when, I got this opportunity. So there's a short story, there's a long story. I know you've got a certain amount of time.
We got the long story for this one.
So I was working for a company that did survey equipment, hired and sold survey equipment to the railway and construction industry. And it was a great job. It was fairly well paid. I was delivering around central and west London in a Vauxhall Insignia or a transit van, whatever the size of the stuff was. And this was 10 to 15 years ago when London was still quite a nice place to be around, but traffic was still there. So I used to do these little videos, these little skits, and this is old school Instagram when it was little 15-second videos. And I found myself bored in traffic, and I used to do these. And they started getting a bit of a following, but it was only when I met Lord Aleem, we became friends. He then introduced me to Yanni. This is a little bit of a shorter story. And then I was sat with Yanni one day at his place in Enfield, and he said, I've got a guy called Simon coming up, new company called Urban Automotive. I was like, yeah, what do they do? They said, well, like Carn and Overfinch, they kit up Range Rovers. He's doing the same. I was like, sounds interesting. Anyway, I saw this black Range Rover Sport pull up, and I was like, that's awesome. That's really cool. Lowered 23s. This was about 2015, 2016, and it was the first Range Rover Sport that Si built. And he went to go and show Yanni to, see if they could work out a deal, whether Yanni could take it and do a bit of promo on it and stuff like that. And that was how their relationship developed. But a couple of months after that, I was speaking to Yanni. I said, look, this job's all right. It's paying the bills, but it's not a passion. Do you know what I mean? And let's face it, I think Yanni just went up to the side and just said, look, he's me mate. Have you got anything for him? Give him a chance. And God bless Simon. I love Simon. He gave me the opportunity. And, I go on about being lucky and stuff like that. But I have taken that opportunity and sort of realised that I could really make something of it. And I have. We're 9 years in now. And again, I'm new vehicle sales and VIP sales, but kind of like the brand ambassador as well for Urban. And I love it. I'm Team Urban, but I haven't got an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I need direction, and like we said, there is a contentment in that. I'm happy with that.
Where did you make those relationships then with very entrepreneurial people? Because for someone maybe listening to here to think, okay, how can I get myself in a position where I work my way up and maximise the potential of a job role that I can be in to the absolute max, which is how I view what you've achieved. Yeah. But you're talking then about a lot of friends and a kind of mindset group that are actually very entrepreneurial with those guys. How did that develop? How did you get to meet Yanni? So that was just from car shows. And do you know what? I remember that he put up one post, and my comment on this post must have just stood out to him. And it was a picture of a long winding road, and he said, like, one car, what would you choose for this road?
and you had all the usual Ferraris.
Was it an Escort
Of
Cosworth?
course it was. So you had all these people that were saying, like, you know, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLaren and stuff like that. And I said an Escort, which is true. That's my all-time favourite car. You know, apart from an Aventador, if I really had to choose. And that obviously stuck out. He's like, wow, old school, blah, blah. Because we're of the same kind of generation where, you know, BMW 325i E30s and Nova SRs and Fiesta XR2is and Escort Cosworths. So I grew up in the, you know, all my mates had fast Fords, so RS Turbos, Cossies and stuff like that, which is where my love for modified cars came. Then we started chatting, and I met him. I think it was like a Gumball 3000. They used to do these cars and coffee meets about 10, 11 years ago. We started chatting. We just got on, and you know, you can't teach that. I can't tell someone, right, to get this job and to meet entrepreneurial people, you need to do this, because it is just, you know, relationship building. And I've been fortunate. And yeah, I mean, there's no. I do get a little bit embarrassed sometimes because the younger generation will message me, and I'm guilty of it. Look, we all know that social media, you're only posting the highlights. So if you look on my page, you see me stood in LA next to Scott Disick in Hidden Hills in Calabasas, handing over his brand new Range Rover on 26-inch alloys, or me stood next to a Rolls-Royce Cullinan or a Koenigsegg, or, you know, you look through my page, it looks like I'm living the dream. And to an extent I am, but they are just the highlights. But, you know, the younger generation will message me and say, oh, how did you get to where you are? And I'm like, well, where am I? I'm working. But it's embarrassing because I can't really tell them. You know, there's no college course, there's no uni degree that you can do to do what I do. There is an element of luck, being in the right place at the right time, and just trying to be a good person as well. Try and be a good person in real life and on social media, because it can be a very negative place. So I try and go back to them and just say, you know, just try and do that, you know. And you have to start at the bottom. You know, it's only been the last sort of 4 or 5 years that I've been a little bit more comfortable in life. So up until about 33, 34, I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, driving into London. I did a bit of agency lorry work. I did, you know, removals. I worked in a warehouse. I've done all the graft, and it's only a little bit later on in life now, I'm 42 this year, where I am actually starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. And I do sometimes feel that I'm a little bit, 10 years, a little bit too late in life with what I have, like the nice house, the nice car and stuff like that. But then I think, well, if I did have that in my late 20s and early 30s, with how I was then, I probably wouldn't have handled it as well.
That's really interesting. So you're saying, though, that then you've developed quite a long way since your 20s and 30s, where some people are out the door, out the gate, going for it. But it proves that actually when you're just that bit older, you can actually kind of settle is probably the right word as well. Which leads me into my next question, which was, we've all got something called a personality code. You can sit down with these people with glasses and a piece of paper and a pen, and they'll tell you what your DISC personality code is. I've had one done, and no doubt yours would have a confident letter in it, a dominant letter in it. Was that you growing up? Like, was those key personality traits that make you likable in some respects, like there as a kid?
So I always remember my dad, I mean, we're quite similar. Again, local town, like small market town. And I remember I used to get so frustrated if we went uptown on a Saturday morning, we'd get stopped 4 or 5 times because everyone would want to like have a chat with my dad. So I'm fortunate that, you know, I probably get a bit of personality from my dad. He was always a bit of a joker. I was, you know, I wouldn't say I was the popular kid in school, but I was, you know, I wasn't an in-betweener. I wasn't, you know, a popular kid. I was sort of somewhere in the middle. But I never really had any problems with networking and becoming friends with people. I think that is a strength. But again, you can't really teach that, can you? You know, it's something that's in you or not. You know, and yeah. There
must be part of you, though, when you are stood in those moments with people that you've watched. You know, you mentioned Scott Disick. There must be the fact that you follow him apart. You've been stood on Anthony Joshua's drive selling a car.
David Beckham came a few months ago.
And you're going to tell me that you going in those positions is all down to luck?
I don't think it's luck, but I don't want to take any credit for it. You know, again, Simon has built this incredible business. Simon has built Urban, and Chris, the other director, who is the operations director. You know, he's built the kits. You know, I've just been behind the scenes and been lucky enough to show off these kits with my social media.
But
this
God,
is
it's a
where
tough one.
this is where I was so like, do I come on a podcast for something like this? Because I'm kind of like, it's a very
because I
difficult
think
thing
you
to talk about.
I think you downplay it. I think you downplay it massively, because I'm wondering how many of those key individuals that you have mentioned would be here if it wasn't part of you being integral in part of its story.
Well, yeah, I mean,
of the brand.
it's only been the last couple of
I
years.
think it's getting it out of you. That's the really tough thing.
Look, it's only been the last couple of years that Si has come on the YouTube channel and got himself out there a little bit more. So I suppose I was the face of Urban, but I wouldn't want to take anything away from anyone else in the company. I don't know whether someone's seen me stood next to a Defender 110 hardtop. I thought, right, Lenny likes that. I've got to go and get it.
So forget what I've asked. Christmas Day, Christmas dinner. Who sat around the table?
Me, my wife, and my dog Franco. And then a couple of days later, I'll go and see my mum and dad. I don't really. Despite how I look and how I sound and how my social media comes across, I'm not actually overly social. When you was younger, it was so cool to have loads of mates, wasn't it? But now I'm quite, my favourite place is being at home with my wife and my dog. Like I don't holiday in Dubai. I don't spend 2 weeks on the beach. I'm actually quite low maintenance, despite how it looks.
What do you say to those key members of the family though when they turn around? They must go, do you realise you met David Beckham today? Do you realise you sold Anthony Joshua a car? Do you realise you did this, which millions of people aren't doing things that make their time so enjoyable?
And this goes back to the imposter syndrome thing. I do sometimes have to, when I'm in a small dark room on my own and I decompress, like I do sometimes think, what an amazing, it's amazing. But I can't pinpoint how or why, or it's a very difficult thing to answer, very, very difficult.
When did you become content in life in your head? Was there a moment, because you mentioned that you feel content, was there a moment and an age where things became content? And was that something that you were working towards? Because a lot of people that I speak to always have a goal that they work towards. Was contentment always the goal for you?
I think so. I think a lot of people put so much pressure on themselves to be happy. Everyone says, you've got to be happy in life. But I think being content is just as powerful. And do you know what? I haven't spoken about this to anyone before, but I did go and see someone a couple of years back. I did have to go and speak to someone because there was something in me. I had everything that I wanted. I've been with my wife now for 20 years. We've got a beautiful home. We live a really nice life, but there was something that I was getting up in the morning and I just felt a little bit, I didn't know what it was. So I went to go and see someone, and 2 or 3 sessions, they were writing stuff down on a whiteboard, and in the end it was imposter syndrome, because I've gone from, working class family. I had a lovely childhood, but we didn't have a lot of money. We never went on, the first time I ever went on a plane when I was 22. Never had foreign holidays. We used to drive to the south of France. So never had any money, but I had a lovely childhood. And it's only been the last few years that I've been a little bit more comfortable with money. I've got a nice car, nice house and stuff like that. And I do sort of sometimes have to pinch myself. Again, I'm 42 and I wouldn't count myself as successful, but I'm fortunate with what I have.
I think you have some unbelievably successful personality characteristics, though, and things that no matter who you are in this van, or what business you own, or entrepreneurial spirit, or job that you're in, there's some things that you mentioned there that people strive towards in life, and only a few people actually are successful with things like relationships, keeping a happy family, keeping everything stable at home. You mentioned you've been with your wife over 20 years.
Yeah.
I live in a world where the average is 3 to 5 with everything I see. How does someone do that? Is that because that you, compared to a lot of the guys around you that are very entrepreneurial, is that because you are on the straight and narrow?
Do you know what? I think yeah, and I also think I don't have the pressures of running a business. I mean, I am on my phone a little bit in the evenings, because to my clients, I'm available on WhatsApp. I'm on my phone. So if I get a phone call at 9 o'clock at night from someone who's spent X amount of money with me on a couple of cars, I will answer the phone. So, but I do think that, I'm lucky that my time is my own. When I speak to my mates who own businesses or entrepreneurs, and I know they're 24/7, but yeah, I mean, I met Holly when she was 18. I was 21, just turning 22. So we've kind of grew up together as well. And I learned quite early on when I was starting to get a bit of a following on social media as well that just keep her off it. Just don't. I see it so often where couples will put their whole lives on social media and then they open themselves to, you know, attack and stuff.
Tommy Fury, Molly May.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, and I don't need to show my wife off. She's beautiful and I love her to bits. So why post her? There was a situation where I think it was about 6 years ago. The last time I posted a picture with her, Bentley gave me a Bentley GT for the weekend, and just go off and do like the social media bits, take a picture with it, let them know how I like it and stuff like that. The usual promo stuff.
We'll come back to that.
Right, okay. Yeah, went to a nice country pub, took a selfie with Holly with her in the background, and someone put like, "Oh, you're punching," yeah, like just some like shitty comment. Do you know what I mean? And I DM'd him. My head fell off. Who the hell do you think you are? Blah blah blah. And I just thought, I just need to take her out of the equation, because the problem with social media nowadays is that it's given people a platform to say stuff without the consequences. And that's the thing that riles me the most. And it's usually from a faceless profile. And I've kind of learned as well that it can't be everyone's cup of tea, otherwise you'll be a mug. You know, I am who I am. I am myself. And no matter who you are and what you do, there will always be someone out there who doesn't like you.
It was actually Si that said in this van, he's like, I actually think the UK is the most negative place on social media.
It is horrible.
Yet you say that, yet you've built
220 odd thousand followers. But I know that if I was to, I run my page very old school. I'll put up a picture and maybe a couple of stories, maybe the odd reel. But I know that if I wanted to grow that following, bearing in mind that's over like 10 or 11 years, I know that if I wanted to grow that following further, I'd need to start a TikTok page. I'd need to smash out the reels, because we know that Instagram are trying to compete with TikTok. You know, that constant scrolling, the constant content. But I'm kind of coming towards a little bit of the end of my social media career now. I've got my following. I've got a nice following because they've stuck with me. They kind of know my story. They know what they get. They're getting nice pictures of cars. They're getting urban. Who doesn't want to see my beautiful boy Franco in a Staffordshire blue Terrier? And that's it. That's how I run my page. But it can be such a horrible negative place. I'll give you a prime example. So I posted a very amateur edit of a Defender 6x6. Did you see it?
Yes, right. And you said, I know it's got two fuel caps on it.
Two fuel caps. One of the rear wheels was bent. I did this on my phone, these hands, 2 apps in about 15 minutes. I thought, oh, that'd be pretty cool. Let me have a little go on that, right? And someone pointed out all the bits, and I think they were a graphic designer or they were, you know, Photoshop or whatever. And they said, "Oh, next time you want to do something, let me know. I'll do it for you." And I was like, "Don't worry, I've got a full media team at Urban who can do it for me. This was just a bit of fun." And then someone underneath was like, "Well, you haven't got a media team, have you? Your bosses have." I was like, "That's kind of what I meant." Like, I'm not saying that I like
how have I ended up in this comment section?
I'm just like, right. So he's written that comment. He's gone, right, I've done a good thing there. Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it. Like, I've never been one to, if I see something on social media I don't like, I'll just scroll past. I don't feel like I'm important enough to say, right, this person really needs to know how I feel about this. Like, you see a Ferrari F40 wrapped pink. Oh my God, that's awful. That's like, it's not my cup of tea. I'll move on and hope that the next picture is a picture of Megan Fox or something like that, you know?
But from something you said earlier, you mentioned about, I'm doing the usual social media stuff, you know.
Is that me?
Bentley, give me a car. Bentley, give me a car for the weekend. Pause. Because what I'm trying to understand is the life that, as you say, is the highlights, the bits that you perceive. Some of those things people often obviously assume, and they put next to entrepreneurship, owning a business, making vast sums of money. If you want to drive a Bentley Continental for the weekend for 2 days, or have a Lamborghini given to you, or X, Y, and Z, the only way to do it is through owning and running a business.
Yeah.
You've proved and mentioned that's not the case. So what has building a personal brand, but one that isn't because you own a business, it's because you you've just built your own personal brand. What's that opened up for you in terms of quality of life?
That's awesome. Because
Versus the negative.
I know the power of having a big following. I'm not naive. I know the power. I know that businesses will throw things at you for promotion. But I've always been very, very careful of what I promote, especially the last 5 years or so. You know, I was doing a thing with some watches, you know, and that I cringe a little bit with the whole use my code Lenny20 for it. And I think that can ruin a personal brand. So I don't do a lot of promo stuff. I don't. But if it's what's the word I'm looking for? We have to cut this out.
Beneficial.
No, contradictive.
Right.
Not contradictive. If it's not conflict, if it's not a conflict of interest, if it's not a conflict of interest to Urban, and it's something non-car related, or you know, it's something that I will genuinely use myself, and it is good, I will put a little story up there. But I've heard some horror stories from business owners who have spoken to, you know, people on social media who have asked them to help with promo, and they're like, yeah, we'll do that, but it's like, you know, it's $2 or $3 grand and for a post and stuff. And I understand the power of it, but if someone's going to offer me a car for the weekend to go and have a little jolly,
this is what I'm on about.
I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
This is what I'm on about. I get that. This is what I'm on about.
I get that having a big social media presence is powerful, but also, I suppose, am I just the everyday guy? You know, am I the sort of working class hero done all right? And you know, I was so fortunate enough that HRO and Rolls-Royce would give me a car for the weekend. But then I get it, because they've sort of realised that the Rolls-Royce brand isn't just aristocrats anymore and like old men and stuff. They know that it is becoming the younger audience, and they know that I will use I'll use Urban's media team to, you know, create some lovely content for which we did. I had a black badge ghost for the weekend. I went to a country house that I knew locally, and we did a lot of gentleman style shoot, and you know, I posted that, and it was all very cool. So I get it, I do get it, but that stuff's amazing. You know, like my mates who have grown up with, who have known me like, you know, 10, 15 years before I even started social media, they're like, what? Rolls-Royce gave you a car for the weekend? Why?
This is my point. Yeah. But everyone through that lens will be thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And like, is it worth it? So it's my point. So you say happy, content,
yeah.
You post all the good bits, and by posting the things that you have, and also an understanding niches, like back in the day, although you don't want to be that person anymore, when you grew a lot of your following through the skits, etc., was it worth it to get that moment with the wife in a Bentley Continental going up to wherever?
If it wasn't for social media, I'd still be, because I've got no qualifications or anything like that, I'd still probably just be lorry driving or being in a white van, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I've done all those jobs. But when you have like a passion for cars and you like nicer things, you know, I suppose it is a bit of a success story, is it?
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Because I suppose
you're getting into those vehicles in a completely different way to how people think they can get into those vehicles.
I probably should have thought about this a little bit more before you sat me down, because I don't think I have had a chance to really sit back and look at the last 10 years. Because, you know, I have gone from driving a white van around London or Vauxhall Insignia to driving some of the best cars in the world and standing next to David Beckham or Scott Disick on his driveway. You know, it is incredible, but it only takes things like this and talking about it to think, oh, do you know what, Ben, you're absolutely right.
But this is road to success.
Yeah.
And it's also supposed to be interesting. And I think what's super interesting is perception. So perception of a guest, or perception of how to achieve a certain goal. So, as I said earlier, the perception of how to get yourself in a Lamborghini Aventador for the weekend, or a Bentley Continental, or a Rolls-Royce, is either to win big on the lottery, become a crypto millionaire and sell a lot of courses on a beach in Dubai, or work blimmin' hard like a lot of the guests on here and build a big company as the numbers become bigger and you can afford these things. Never have I spoke to like another route that seems to get all the enjoyment out of these
without
things
the bills.
without as much of the stress as you put across. And I find that really fascinating. But it seems to be a key part of maybe how you've achieved that is kind of through patience and making the correct decisions. And to do that, you've got to learn how to say no. You talk about like, I'll only do it if it's not a conflict of interest. I'll only do it if it's not right. How did you learn what was the right things to do? Is it always just been by feel? Have you ever applied some good strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been offered all sorts of stuff that I know that just isn't a good fit to me. I mean, you know that you asked me today, where's the Stone Island? You know, I was a big collector of Stone Island since I bought my first jumper in probably 99, 2000, and I've collected a lot of archive stuff, a lot of the old like heat reactive stuff, shadow project stuff. Like I had an amazing collection of Stone Islands, and my followers would have seen the dressing room with them all on display and stuff like that. That was my little geeky thing that I liked. So if a white label clothing company would approach me and say, "Oh, look, we'll pay you a couple of £100 to put this hoodie on your story," I'd be like, no one's going to believe it. They know that I'm not going to wear that. Do you know what I mean? And that you have to be real. And I think that's why some people do warm to my page, because they know that I'm not just going to promote any old rubbish. And I think as an influencer, and I hate that word, but I know that I do have an element of influence. I'd like to think that if a follower meets me in real life, they won't be disappointed. That's the main thing for me.
It's the quality of life achieved from social that I think is really interesting. The UK dream, being able to go away with a partner of 20 years in a car, because you've put the effort and the correct decisions into making those pages, is quite an achievement in itself. But sometimes I feel you almost seem a bit lost.
I am. Because I don't have an answer for you. I don't know how I've done it. Because I can keep going on about luck and being in the right place at the right time. But I have worked hard on this brand image. I have. Going from Lenny the Geezer to Lenny.Urban, and being careful with what I post and how I post, and being a little bit obsessive about how my homepage looks and stuff like that. It is an image, isn't it?
Because when you're working for someone else, it's quite easy to take 500 quid and £1,000 a new Stone Island jacket.
Of course, yeah.
It's quite a big thing to also say no to that.
But Urban is so important to me that I wouldn't like to, I wouldn't do anything to, make my image look bad or make Urban
or
look
jeopardise
bad. Or jeopardise it, yeah.
So on to Urban. I mentioned earlier that someone I had in the van before was Al Barrett. He's grown Grenade.
Yeah.
Protein bars that we've all seen in, the shops and petrol stations.
I've had them myself, yeah.
And he said to me that to grow a good brand, you have to be seen everywhere. He's like, I went round one day, all the petrol stations in the UK with a notepad and a pen, where he said he took a week out to do it, and he wrote down all the ones that the Grenade weren't in. When I drove here, hour and a half to Milton Keynes, where I lived just outside of Oxford, I think we saw 2 Urban Defenders on the road. They're becoming more popular. But when you started, Simon pulled up in one Urban Range Rover. How have you got from there to here?
So that's I love that. I mean, I don't know. Simon must love it because it's his brand. But like when I'm out on the road and I see another Urban, I'm like, that's amazing. But when I started, I think it's 2016, April 2016, I started. There was me and I think maybe 8 or 9 other members of staff. Now there's about 120 members of staff. I mean, admittedly, it's terrible, but there's some lads who walk through in an Urban t-shirt and I don't know their name. It's grown so big, and across 5 or 6 different sites, about 150,000 square foot of business. The rise of the Urban brand has become, huge, and that helps. That's helped with social media, but also the quality and the design of the kits.
And what do you think, other than the quality of the design of the kits and how the cars look, has been a key success? We spoke about all these people that you've come into contact with and met. Because when I was younger, the brand was Overfinch.
Yeah,
they were just everywhere.
Overfinch, Khan, Revere, they were all the big players in the modified car world.
And I genuinely think that Urban has just wiped out people's view of who the leading kit is for vehicles like that, and it's so OEM plus that it's worked so well here but also in the US. Do you remember the first time that you had someone, I know Yanni was instrumental, your friend, but someone really instrumental into like, Christ, we've got them in an Urban?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of, in the past, we've had a lot of football players and celebrities in the cars. There's no one really that sticks out. I mean, we
Katie
did
Price?
Yeah, we did the pink Range Rover for Katie Price, and they say, all publicity is good publicity, but
doesn't fit Lenny the Geezer from the past,
Do you know what?
Yeah.
When we did that, like, what was that, 9 years ago now? She was lovely. You know, she was really friendly. She loved her car. We did. You know, the customer is always right. So, but that's part of the. You know, that's part of the history. You can't just wipe history, right? Like, I can't get rid of the whole Lenny the Geezer thing. You can't get rid of the Katie Price pink Range Rover. But it's only been the last couple of years now that we've really started to see the big players, like getting Kim Kardashian. No matter what you think of her as a celebrity, she's one of the biggest celebrities in the world, and she's driving an urban Range Rover. David Beckham's son Romeo is in an urban Defender. It was quite nice actually when Romeo came in, because he was like, I can't believe I'm here. I watch your YouTube videos. I'm like, I can like the fact that the urban YouTube video is in the Beckham household and they could be watching it is incredible.
It's mind blown, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's difficult for me to answer, because I'm here, I'm inside it. So I would love to see the Urban brand as a whole with fresh eyes, or from an outsider looking in, because I think it's cool and I work here. So from an outsider, it must be a really, really cool brand. I'm sure it is.
Being inside, you guys were known for Range Rover Sports, the big Range Rovers as well, and it developed slowly, kind of one model by one model, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, I remember how it kind of happened. It was with Nero, I believe. Bang, Lamborghini Aventador kit, bang, this kit. And now we're in a place where you've got Rolls-Royce Cullinans coming through, you've got a G-Wagon, you're about to wide track back there. Who and how have you now got to that stage?
So it all started with the old style Defenders. So Simon had a couple of those that he did up on his driveway. They sold very quickly. He saw a gap in the market. Then Land Rover announced that they weren't doing that style Defender brand new anymore, so he had to move on to other models. And originally it was the Range Rover Sport using, I think, an AC Schnitzer kit, so an off-the-shelf kit, someone else's kit, and then he added a carbon splitter on the bottom, which is part of an Urban bit, to make it a little bit different to just an AC Schnitzer kit. And then 2017 we did the V2 kit, so it was Urban's first body kit, designed by Urban, manufactured by Urban, and that went on the car. And I think it was then we were started to be taken seriously, not just using other people's kits and labelling up as Urban. We had our own kit, but Simon's obviously an incredible entrepreneur, an incredible businessman, and he knew that you couldn't just survive on Land Rover product. So when we started doing the Bentley Bentayga as well, that was another good one. That was that needed a kit, the first generation Bentayga.
And so did the Discoveries with the plate on the wrong side.
Yeah, and that
what an opportunity that placed itself in front of you.
And that was a really popular car for us, and that was when we first saw the power of selling commercial vehicles as well, VAT and tax efficient vehicles that look and drive like a Range Rover.
Do you guys look forward to new models being released or revere it?
50-50. I love it. As someone who works on commission, I'm at the point at the moment where I'm selling Defenders all day, every day, and they're my bread and butter. They pay my mortgage. But I love the Cullinans, the RSQ8s, the RS6s, G-Wagons, and the trouble we have at the moment is that there's so many facelifts out. So you've got the Series 2 Cullinan out now, the RSQ8 has been facelifted, the G-Wagon is model year 25 now, and manufacturers do just enough to really mess us up where we have to rescan the car and redesign the kit. So we've got all these new products coming out this year. So G-Wagon Aero kit, G-Wagon Wide Track kit, we've got the Cullinan Series 2, which has been scanned. I've seen designs for that, which is just incredible. I think that's going to blow up the market. That's going to look really, really cool. So there's always cars that we want to do, but obviously the investment to design, develop and manufacture a new kit is quite vast. So we need to make sure that it is a car that we know is going to be popular and is going to sell again. Because we've had so many people say, why don't you do a kit for a Porsche Cayenne? Why don't you do a kit for a BMW X5M? Well, the Cayenne, we know that Porsche, apart from tech art, you don't really modify a Porsche. It's not one of those cars that you modify, whereas Land Rover product has always been, with Overfinch since the 70s and 80s, Kahn in the late 90s and the early 2000s, we've just followed on from that. There are certain cars and manufacturers that lend themselves to being modified, and the cars that we choose are those manufacturers. And the interesting one is the Cullinan, because no one we go on about OEM plus. You gone on the max power days. You can ruin a car and body kit. But I remember speaking to a couple of guys that worked at Rolls-Royce. They came to see our Cullinan on the Goodwood stand, and they said it's the best kit they've ever seen. The fit, the finish, and to hear that from some Rolls-Royce engineers is fantastic. So it's 50-50. We'd love to see new cars because we know a new product is due, but then we think, there's a lot of R&D to.
Something I was surprised at that Simon told me when I spoke to him before is I thought that you had this all singing, all dancing discount relationship with Land Rover, Range Rover. For a brand that is known for doing amazing things to their cars, do you think as a company as a whole, I know you've all tried your best, you would be even further down the line if that brand you had a better relationship
worked with us a little bit?
Yeah.
It's just weird to me. I don't know. I don't want to go into that too much politically, but I just think they're selling the unit anyway, whether it's to us or a member of the public, and it's not as if we're tearing their car apart and making it unsafe or tuning it or anything. We're just doing what the public want, and the proof is in the pudding. We, like I said, we're building between 30 and 40 Defenders a month at the moment. The dealers like us because they even buy some of our kits, which is odd. Like a customer will go in and spec up their Defender. They're like, I want an Urban spoiler, I want an Urban set of wheels, and the salesman at Land Rover is like, I've got to get some Urban bits. But it's slightly different in Europe. We had a dealer in Holland that they had their own Urban concession at the dealership, at a Land Rover dealership. So you can go in and spec up your Land Rover Defender and then spec up the Urban bit and then buy an Urban Defender. Don't know how long it's going to last, when JLR Europe get hold of it, but that just shows the power of the brand. No, I don't think no one has ever done that before. I certainly don't think like Overfinch or Khan or Revere have managed to get into a Land Rover dealership where you can spec up, accessories.
And that matters because as head of sales, you've got to sell these cars.
Yeah.
How difficult was it when the last few years have kind of played out with the sheer amount of Land Rovers that were stolen?
So it was quite difficult in terms of the sport, the V2 sport kit, so from 2017 to 2021 was our Defender back then. We couldn't build them quick enough.
I had one.
You did, yeah, and they looked so good, didn't they? Again, you could park that up in a Land Rover dealership and it just looked like a special edition rather than a kitted up Range Rover. But it was important to evolve from that. I can't remember the question. What was the question? Sorry, mate.
What was the question, Toby? Why did so many cars get nicked? Did the nick in the cars have a big impact on selling them?
Only because of the insurance. People found it really difficult to insure the new L461 Sport and the L460 Range Rover. That's sort of sorted itself out a little bit now. It's still quite expensive.
I'll tell you a fact.
Yeah.
So my daily is a V6 diesel Range Rover Sport worth about 30 grand, and I've had it for 3 years, something like that, maybe 4 years now. I would love to change it, but it's so cheap on interest at the minute that I don't want to. When it comes round to insuring it, I'm very fortunate. I've got my McLaren.
Yeah.
McLaren is £900 a year. My Range Rover is £4,500. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's crazy, and it didn't help. And the mad thing is, it's the L494, like your shape Sport, and the L405, the previous Vogue or full size Range Rover, whatever you want to call it. They were the problems. They were the ones that were getting nicked left, right, and centre. And the new generation, the new technology, they're not as easy to steal. So it was just the reputation of the Range Rover products getting stolen so much. But the problem that people have is, we know that an Audi will go on for 200,000 miles and it'll probably be fine. We know that an X5M probably drives slightly nicer than the Sport SV. We know that Mercedes, the interior is beautiful with all that ambient lighting and stuff. But a Land Rover product, especially a Range Rover, it's kind of in a league of its own. It's not quite with those cars. It's not quite Rolls-Royce, Cullinan or Bentley Bentayga either. It's kind of in a league of its own. And if you want a Range Rover, you will just want a Range Rover. You're spending that kind of money. And I found that people, if they're spending 130, 140 grand on a kitted up Range Rover Sport and they have to pay 8 or 9 grand to insure it, chances are they will. It has got a little bit better. I think insurance companies have kind of realised that it's not this generation that is the problem. But yeah, we did notice that it was getting harder and harder, but the insurance is nothing compared to trying to take in a Part X on an electric car.
Really?
If you want to touch that subject. People, you know, the Porsche Taycan, it's a beautiful car. And if you've driven one, you know they're an awesome drive.
My mum last night in a car park, so I took her somewhere, got out and went, "What's that, Ben?" I said, "There's a Porsche Taycan."
It's such a good looking car, and they drive amazing. But we know how much they've gone downhill, and the amount of times that people have bought one for the business, for the tax benefits and stuff like that, and now they're thinking, right, I don't like the range fear. I don't like just being able to do 220 miles. I don't like seeing the range go down when I put the heated seat on. The infrastructure for charging cars, we know it's not great at the moment. We're not quite there. So the amount of times that I've had people wanting to change into a Defender 110 hardtop, which is tax and VAT efficient, you can get 450 miles a tank. You don't have to worry about running out of juice anywhere. But they've got a Taycan to Part X, and I'm almost straight away going, it was lovely to speak to you. I can't help you. Because, if they're like 10, 15 grand the wrong way round, and, they're in that much negative equity and stuff, we can't help them. Porsche don't even want them back. But I kind of get it. Look, whether you believe in climate change or not, I'm not even going to go into that. But, I get that things have to change. Is that electric cars? I don't think so. I mean, I think the EQC, the Mercedes EQC, was the only car that Urban did that we lost a bit of money on. And it looked fantastic. We did a carbon aero kit for it, 22-inch Vossens. It looked amazing. But people just stopped buying electric cars, and we were stuck with two of them, and we really struggled to get out of them.
Sadly, it seems that the things that you actually do like, Urban Range Rovers, Rolexes, nice clothing, but also vans, they all get stolen a lot. But that piece there brings me into vans, because some of the most viewed videos on YouTube with you involve vans. And you mentioned that as part of you growing up for all these years, you've always been a van man. You've absolutely loved vans.
My dad's still got a Transit. He's still got his 2017 Transit. He loves it.
Why on earth, with your personality and your passion for the brand, are there not vans being churned out within Urban?
So we do the T6. We do the T6.1, the VW T6.1, which looks amazing.
Why is it not a Transit?
But that is a very, very different clientele to a Ford Transit. And do you know what? You kind of have to pick your battles. And Simon and the Urban team probably won't like me saying this, but MSRT have absolutely cracked that Transit. It looks unbelievable. And I think the Urban brand is powerful enough to take on the Transit, but we're so busy with everything else. I'd love to do everything.
Do you have these conversations inside? So when you talk about new vehicles, should we do this? Should we do this? I wanted to get into your passions because I knew you'd become fiery over it. And ultimately, these guys you work there, but you can all have a difference of opinion. Yeah. Would you have loved to have done a Transit by now?
I would, but I probably would have liked to have separated the brand. Because I just think that maybe call it Urban Works or something like that, and I think we played with that idea, and I think the T6.1s are under Urban Works because we're doing Rolls-Royce Cullinans and we're doing G-Wagons it's and all under that one brand. I think it's difficult because you imagine coming and spending 400 grand with me on a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and you pull up next to someone and they're in an Urban Transit, like, oh look. We're the same.
Mate, half the time an MSRT driver's got a Cullinan at home, to be honest with you.
But I just, you have to pick your battles. And do you know what? I like a van being a van. I'm very old school. I've probably done 500,000 miles in Ford Transits, and they were all just normal white vans on steelies that you can ram up a curb, but you don't have to worry about. When you start lowering a van on big wheels and stuff,
that's what you asked when you saw the studio.
This was lowered. It looks incredible, but I can only imagine that it's quite impractical.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit, but sometimes it is form over function, right? Every single car I've had, my Merc, lowered that on 21-inch Vossen alloys, 25 profile tyres on the back. It rode horribly. I turned this beautiful big coupe into a bouncing boy racer car. So sometimes it is form over function, but I think the Transit should stay a Transit. Do you know what I mean? Just a good, van.
So do you reckon we'll see an Urban Works Transit in the future? You got so much passion for it. I just know how many you could sell.
I do love a van, but I think I like the fancy stuff as well. I could sit here all humble. I'm just a little sandy boy that just likes a Transit van. But look, I'm as flash as everyone else. I love being in a Cullinan and an RS6 and stuff like that. So I don't know whether it's on the radar. Not in the near future anyway.
Do you work towards, even though you say you're content, you still work towards personal goals? Would you like to get to the point where you've got your Aventador, for example?
I'd love to. And do you know what? I am a realist. You know, I don't believe in this. You know, some entrepreneurs and these FX traders and stuff like that will put up these memes that, you know, if you believe hard enough, if you do this, you will get your goal. And sometimes you just won't. No matter how hard you try. Unfortunately, sometimes you just won't. As an employee, I don't think I'll ever be able to get an event door. I don't think. Would I settle with an Escort Cosworth? Yes. Do I have £60,000 to spend on a 30-year-old Ford Escort? No, I haven't.
And £3,000 for the bubble.
Would my wife let me? Probably not. But I still have some personal. I'd love, you know, I've just bought. I moved 4 weeks ago, and I've just bought a new house, beautiful new house, and it's got a garage. I'd love to put something in there. So the last sort of 3-4 years I've been saving for this new house. I've got that. And like I say, because we don't have expensive holidays, we're not really types to lie on a beach or anything like that. So now I've done that bit, I can start saving again for the next thing, and that may be to put something in the garage.
You seem very disciplined. Where did you learn that level of discipline?
I think I've always been good with. So I love my nice clothes, and I love a pair of Dior trainers and stuff like that. But I won't buy a new pair until I've sold something. So, pair of Dior B30s, my favourite trainer, 860 quid. I will not pay 860 quid for a pair of trainers until I've either sold one of my Stone Island jackets or I've sold a couple of cars to make up the commission worth. But I think that comes from not coming from money. You know, like I had a wonderful childhood, but we didn't have money. I'd hand-me-down clothes from my older cousins. I must have supported about 3 or 4 different football teams, depending on which football shirt came from which cousin. I had Liverpool, I had Man United, I had Arsenal. And yeah, I mean, you know, my mum and dad have always worked full time. Though my dad's always been a grafter, and you know, if you want nice things, you have to work for them. You know, and I wouldn't put myself in debt for anything silly like designer clothes. Like my watch was the first thing that in fact, that was quite a big moment for me. It was saving up enough to, you know, I went on the list. I went into the local Fraser Hart in Milton Keynes, and I said, look, I want a sub date or a Batman or a GMT, and they put me on the list. You know yourself that this non-existent list. And then 9 months later, I got a call, got a Batman coming in, do you want it? And at the time, this was 2019, so it was 6,850. And I had saved, knowing that I would get one, I had saved, and I wouldn't have got a loan out for it. I wouldn't have put it on a credit card because I didn't deserve it unless I'd saved for it. But that was quite I look down at that now, even 5 years later, 6 years later, and look at that and think that I've done that all myself.
Do you think these materialistic items then can be a dot on your kind of journey and your road to be like, actually, I am doing okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's nice to have nice things, especially when you've done it all yourself. Like I've literally everything that I have. My mum and dad have supported me, but you know, monetary wise, you know, I've done everything myself, and I am proud of that. I am really proud of that because, again, you know, leaving school with not many grades and no college and no uni, and just grafted all the way to have, you know, the things that I have. It is quite nice. It is quite an achievement. Without
giving too much away or being too personal, I know from being the person that does work too many hours a day and try and chase absolutely everything, every rabbit in the field, I will try and chase, as my dad used to say. You spend a lot of time, as we said before, with Simon, with Yanni, with a lot of the other guys. You seem like the complete calm, level-headed, disciplined one of the group.
Yeah.
Have you been surprised to maybe be in situations where you've had to guide some of those guys with maybe how to find
Yanni,
happiness?
I love Yanni like an old brother, and I think he's quite misunderstood on social media. If you see him, he's like the showman and stuff. But if you were to meet him in real life, he's you know, he'll help anyone. He'll offer anyone advice and stuff like that. But we always do joke. He loves to hold a grudge. He loves to hold. So if you would have said something to him like 6 or 7 years ago that he didn't like, he'd know. He'd remember. He'd know. And there's a couple of times where I've maybe said to him, "Bruv, just let it go. Just let it go. Just chill out, just let it go." And I'd like to think that sometimes he listens to me. Simon used to be quite highly strung, but these were all, like, as a businessman and entrepreneur, you're wired up completely different. I'm so fortunate that I don't have the pressures of owning a business. So if I'm the one of the group where, you know, all I have to do is worry about my mates and like he looks stressed. What's the matter with him? Talks to me and then if he tells me and I say, well, look, can you fix it? No, then don't worry about it. Can you fix it? Yes, then don't worry about it. But then that's easy coming from me because I don't have those pressures of running a business, and having staff to worry about and stuff like that.
But the people that do and people that are successful with it usually pick the right people around them to help build that success. You spoke about social media earlier, the negative impacts that it can have, but also how you have used it for positive and good. What do you think, or what did you think when you got the phone call from Yanni, I'm guessing, or a message, when he was being held up in his house? Am I right in saying?
So that was
a scary story.
Really horrible. Yeah, I mean, I just went down there. I mean, he lived about 45 minutes an hour from me, and I just went down there just to see how he was. And it's that is the. Yeah, that was a horrible time because look, Yanni's the same as me. He didn't come from any money and he's worked so hard to have the nice things he has. So when people are trying to take that away from you, that's horrible. And a lot of my friends, a lot of my high net worth friends do worry about that. And I'm kind of like, I don't wear that in London anymore.
Was it an eye-opener for you? Because you mentioned the fact that you haven't put your missus on social media.
Absolutely.
You mentioned those things.
And because, up until I met Yanni, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I didn't have any mates with money like that. I didn't have any mates that were rich or, had a Lambo on their drive or anything like that. So it was an eye-opener to see that. And it has made... I haven't got a lot of stuff, but it does make you think. I've put cameras all around my house and stuff like that, and you do get a little bit paranoid, and it's not a nice feeling. But that wasn't very nice. That wasn't a nice feeling at all. But you just got to support your mates, and yeah.
One thing I asked you before we came on, I said, it seems to be you've gone down the Lenny.Urban approach in the name and you've become a lot calmer and a lot different. And when I spoke to you about coming on, you're saying, oh, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not saying, I'm not this, I'm not that.
I didn't want to do it.
I know you didn't. I did actually force Lenny into doing this because I think that there's so much to be said for everything effort-wise that you've put into building the brand and maximising opportunity and having weekends away. There's so many people that would love to hear about how you've grown a personal brand away from being an employee in a business that gives you the opportunity to take nice things away and enjoy them without some of the stresses. Isn't that the whole thing that everybody sells online is like work-life balance, do this course and you'll achieve X, Y and Z. But in a way, you've carved out a completely different, unique path of how to get some really great enjoyment out of life while staying content and managing to keep a good relationship.
I do worry about the younger generation, and when I say younger generation, I mean, like I say, I'm 42 in June, so I've got to the point now where some of my mates call me uncle. Like they're in their 23. All right, nephew, what do you want now? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm that age now. But I just feel that it's so easy to look online and just. They want that Rolex now. They want that nice car now. They want everything. And again, we are only posting the highlights, and I do worry that the younger generation think that it is normal to have a Lamborghini. I remember when, do you remember when Yanni got that blue SV, the Aventador SV Rolls-Royce, the baby blue one?
Many.
Yeah. So he had a Nero S and a Nero Urus on the drive, and then he bought the
yes, I do remember
blue SV.
Right at the beginning of the comps.
That's
era.
it, and then it went off to a comp winner. I remember seeing someone put. Why did you get another Lamborghini? Everyone's got a Lambo. Why didn't you get a 918 or a P1 or a LaFerrari? And I'm like, what? Have we got to a point now where having a supercar is normal? Like, it's not normal. Having a Rolex isn't normal. But I think people think it is.
So then why do you think you are?
It's that L word again. Luck. It's not luck. I've been given an opportunity and I've run with it.
What an interesting way to kind of take a look at the whole world.
And I'm not even trying to be like overly humble or just like, I'm just doing my thing, because genuinely I don't have an answer. I've taken this opportunity 9 years ago and I've just, I'd like to think there's a likability. I'd like to think that people watch what I do and think he seems all right. I'm going to give him a follow. Like, he looks like he's having a nice time, and that's it.
But do you still have that drive to take the brand to the next level,
Absolutely.
that competitive edge?
Absolutely. I love Urban. I absolutely love Urban. I treat it like it is my own business. So when I see someone putting non-urban products on a Defender and then labelling it up as an urban and trying to sell it, or I see someone, it happens, and see someone copying our kit, or anything like that, I take that to heart. I really, really take that to heart. I'm a proud ambassador of Urban, and I'd like to see it just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, that seems like with you helping and pushing those sales and getting some especially incredible people to drive your vehicles through everything that you've done, that's not only going to be possible, but probably happen in a short period of time too. But if I don't see a transit rival and branded up all black urban stuff, I will be disappointed within the next 5 years, I have to admit. But I appreciate this conversation because it's not been like the norm one. I've actually found it really difficult to kind of come up with the right question, which you said might happen.
I mean, I hope people who viewed it enjoyed it. But like I said, I was always a little bit conscious, a little bit worried about coming on something like this because I don't have the answer. I genuinely don't know why I have got such a big following, because I'm in it. From an outsider looking in, someone might be able to tell me. But
then maybe that does tell people, as we conclude, that it's okay not to know, but still get content and success.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on Road to Success.
No problem, mate.